How's it, guys? My name is Steven Ndlovu, and I just want to talk about investments. Investments. I'm not a professional investment advisor, but I don't think that matters. In this day and age, you all have to invest. Just look at the local economy in South Africa and look at the global economy. Just look at reality. If you take your money and you put it in the bank and you leave it there, you're hardly getting anything back. That's just the reality. You can go research different bank products with different banks. You can knock yourself out in that regard. You're not going to achieve much when you leave your money in the bank. So what do? Practically, you need to start looking at different investment platforms, reputable investment platforms, those who are registered with the relevant authorities. In South Africa, there's so many. I don't want to necessarily punt any platform, but I think most people would have heard of Easy Equities. That's a platform that I personally use because it's easy, and it's the first platform that I came across back in 2015, and I've used it ever since. But ladies and gentlemen, let us be honest with ourselves. You need to invest money so that if you're a parent, you can take your kids to good schools, especially at a later stage when your kids must go to university or high school then university, because those costs are quite exorbitant. So you need to plan for those events. You need to plan for holiday activities, because in as much as things are difficult, but it's always important to get away, even if you're just getting away locally. So you've got to plan for your kids. Many South Africans these days are business owners. It doesn't matter the size of business, it doesn't matter the type of business, but if you're a business owner, then you need to keep money, and you need to find ways to grow your money outside of the core business. That's what wealthy people do. That's what wealthy corporations do. They have the core business, and there's revenue from the business, and once revenue comes in, all the costs of the business overheads must be paid for. Then with what's left, those organizations must have reserves so that they can fund future expansion, and so that they can fund their own sustainability. So you've got to invest money to plan for kids. If you're a business owner, you've got to invest money so that you can stay in business and you can grow your business and you can have a legacy of sorts, so that even when you're not around and it's your wish that the business continue, it can continue because it's got reserves to continue. So ladies and gentlemen, let's stop this idea that only a professional can invest money, or you can only invest money if you have a certain level of information, etc. Of course, there'll always be professionals in investments, and there'll always be an option, but what are you going to do? Wait till you find a professional, or are you going to take matters into your own hands, or are you going to do both? So how do you invest? I think for me, the first question you have to ask yourself is, why am I investing? Now, if I take myself as an example, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner. So that's my universe in a nutshell. I must take my kids to good schools, and even when I'm not around anymore, my kids must be able to go to good schools. I must afford my wife and my kids a comfortable life. I must have a sustainable business that's got reserves. So that's why I invest, to build reserves for my company, so that you don't get revenue, pay for overheads, and then you squander the rest, because it's very easy to do that. But if you have an investment plan, a very basic investment plan, then you can start ensuring that whenever your business gets some revenue, you make sure you take care of the costs and the overheads and whatever needs to be done at that point in time, and then leave some for the reserves. As I've already said, I use Easy Equities. And once you've answered why do you invest, then you can look at, okay, well, what should I invest in? And I think this is where many people get stuck, because now you really want to apply an expert's way of thinking to what to invest in. So why don't you start with the basics? Why don't you start with things that you consume or your kids consume? What do your kids consume? I'm assuming many kids, and it doesn't matter, it'll vary in terms of quantity, but many kids consume something like McDonald's. Maybe you're strict parents and you say McDonald's is only an option once a week or once a month or twice a month, whatever, but your kids consume McDonald's. So why don't you buy McDonald's shares? Use the Easy Equities platform. You go to the American flag there, which symbolizes basically the New York Stock Exchange, and you scroll through the shares on the platform, and you come across McDonald's, and you buy yourself some McDonald's shares. McDonald's shares, as far, the last time I looked, they were about $400 a share. So that's, if you do a conversion, you're looking at about 8,000 Rand for one McDonald's share. Yes, it's a lot of money, but remember, in this day and age, you're quite spoiled, because if you don't have the money to buy a whole share, there's something called FSR. In other words, fractional share rights, which means if you don't have 8,000 Rand to buy a dollar converted McDonald's share, then let's say you've got 1,000 Rand, then that 1,000 Rand will go towards the McDonald's share, but you'll be allocated fractional share rights. Then once you've put enough money in that share to own one full McDonald's share, then you'll be assigned one ordinary share in McDonald's, as opposed to FSR for fractional share rights. You'll be assigned one full rights. And remember that once you own shares in many listed companies, then you start earning dividends. Some companies even pay dividends twice a year. But you must always remember that dividends really depend on the amount of money you've invested in a company. So if you only have one McDonald's share, when McDonald's does pay out a dividend, then you're going to be paid proportionate with the one share that you have in McDonald's. It's likely to be 35 cents, and if you convert that, it'll probably be 1 Rand something. But the point is, you get one share, and then you get another share, and then your dividend rate also improves over time. But that's just a simple example of you don't have to be at the level of Warren Buffett or at the level of an investment manager somewhere in Sandton or Cape Town, whatever the case might be. You can start by looking logically at what do you consume. McDonald's is doing fairly well as far as I know, but also consider that even in times of war, Iran and America, people will still consume McDonald's. Even in times of reduced consumer confidence, people will still consume McDonald's. So that's a very interesting one to own. Then another interesting example, over the weekend I was walking around in a shop and I saw many people were wearing a shoe. It's called On. It's a Swiss brand, and it's, when you look at the letters on the logo, there's a O and there's an N, but it's very smartly done, because I used to think it was OC, but it's actually On, and sometimes because of how the C is like that on the logo, you can also say it's on the cloud. Okay. Anyway, I saw a lot of people wearing that shoe, and I said to myself, I actually want to get myself a pair of these shoes, because I've seen them around wherever I go. People, it's definitely trending, and people are warming up to that shoe. But I said to myself, let me go research and see if On is listed anyway. And I found out that they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and at the time it was about $36 a share. Again, if you convert $36 into rands, you're looking at what 3,000 something, just under 4,000 rand. But then you decide, you buy the shoe, or are you going to buy a share in On and be a shareholder? It's an interesting decision, because if you look at the price of one share, it's roughly the price of what it would cost you to buy a shoe. And the high end ones are like 4.5, 5,000 rand, etc. But you can decide. You can be a consumer, or you can be an owner. Obviously, with being an owner, there's a element of delayed gratification, which means you'd have to buy a substantial number of shares to start feeling, or start to see the real financial rewards. But it depends how you do it. I think, in my opinion, once you start investing in a share and you slowly watch the value of what you've invested increase, I think that in itself is quite rewarding. Then obviously the longer you stay in the game, and the longer you don't take out your money, you can watch your money grow more, and you can watch your dividend payments increase. So there's another example. I've given you McDonald's, I've given you On Cloud. And you can apply that logic in very interesting ways. If you drive down to Durban, and maybe you're driving through the Midlands area, the KZN Midlands area, and you see there's a lot of farms as you drive through, and you see John Deere tractors and other equipment. Just do yourself a favor, go and research John Deere, and you'll see that the company is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and they're doing quite well. Again, if there's war in Iran or anywhere else in the world, I promise you, farming production will only be accelerated, because people need food. No matter what's going on in the world, there must be farming production. So there's another idea. Why don't you go and buy some John Deere shares? And maybe the last one for now, because I don't want the video to be too long. Many people own Apple iPhones. Maybe you're fortunate enough to have an Apple iPhone plus a laptop to work on. Why don't you buy Apple shares? Because I think the product by now has proven its strength to you. It's proven its strength, its reliability, its durability. Go have a look. Apple shares are doing very well. It's one of the shares that Warren Buffett likes to tout. If you do your own basic research, you'll find that Apple, they refer to it as the money-making machine, because people like the Apple products all over the world. And again, something like a war in Iran, it might cause some supply chain constraints, but the way I like to see it is that whenever there's a supply chain constraint, the likes of Apple, they're intelligent enough, they're resilient enough to find ways to deal with that challenge, and they always make it through. When Donald Trump announced the tariffs last year, and there were supply chain constraints, and there was panic in the markets, it was at a point in time, but the likes of Apple, they got through that period relatively unscathed, and they continue to operate. So there's another idea. Why don't you look up Apple on your Easy Equities app and on the New York Stock Exchange, and buy yourself one share in Apple and accumulate one share, two share, three shares, etc. One share costs you just over $300. But if you can pay 20-30 grand for a brand new iPhone, why not? Or you can pay 1,000 rand a month for a contract for an iPhone. Why can't you buy one Apple share? So these are the little tricks that you can play with yourself. It's actually quite fun as well. Observe what you consume. Observe the equipment that you use at work, or if you're a runner, what do you wear? You wear Nike, you wear Adidas, Puma. All these guys are listed on an exchange. Some of them it's America, some of them other exchanges, but they're there. Why don't you invest in the things that you use, the things that you believe in? All right, guys. I think that's the end of the session for today. And really, the point was just to get you to understand that no matter who you are, no matter how rich or otherwise you are financially, you must invest. You really have no choice in the matter. I think what you need to do is make a start. And I can't talk for other people, but I really love investing because it teaches me good habits. Because whenever there's money on the table, I'm thinking of where can I invest for my kids, for my family, for my business. I'm always thinking along those lines. But there's a lot that you learn. You get to learn about different industries and how they work, how they make money, where their pain points are, what are their biggest cost drivers, etc. How are they positioned for the future, if at all. So it's a win-win. You have to do a lot of reading, a lot of research. If you can read gossip, guys, you can definitely read a report about Nvidia or Apple or McDonald's or whoever else. And once you get into the habit of reading these reports and the more formal annual reports, then you'll find that you want to stop, you just want to keep going. So there you go. Start investing today. Thank you. Cheers.